Oh yeah, here we are again for another Trap Thursday. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited after killing off LaSalle last episode. Things might not end too well for our new guest, but we'll see if they make it through the night alive or not. First and foremost, I want to let you know that you should be signed up and ready to go for our backer kit page for Grimtooth old school traps, which is the whole reason we're doing this big thing. We got two books, one for 5th edition, one for DCC. And if you click that link in the chat, it will take you there and you can sign up and be notified day one for launch day, which is going to be on Halloween. That's right. My favorite time of the year. All right. So, without further ado, let's bring on our first guest, Tyler Hoch. 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 How do you say that last name?
It's Taylor Hoch.
Hoch.
Yep,
Okay. Gotcha. Sorry about that.
that's all right.
Well, Taylor, nice to see you.
Nice to
Glad
see you
you're
too.
here with us. You made it out okay. I see. You didn't stumble in any traps on the way in.
No, I've managed to avoid them, but
All right, fared better than some other ones, that's for sure. So I hear you're working on the 5th edition book for us.
I am. I have been working on bringing up some traps, making them your wonderful deviousness into the 5th edition format.
Very good, very
So
yeah. Those
uh,
5th edition babies, they need a rude awakening, if you ask me.
that's true because they seem to, traps are not as big of a seem to be not as big of a thing, but I think that by what you're doing, it's going to become a bigger thing.
Right, we're
So
gonna we're gonna make we're gonna turn those babies into warriors, that's for sure.
that's it. That's
So,
it.
what's your background here?
Well,
You tell people
I've
about.
been working on stuff for Goodman Games for a while now. I've written some, made a bunch of the monsters for their soon out coming out Dungeon Denizens, the first Dungeon
Yeah.
Denizens.
Hmm.
A bunch of monsters for that. I've written some other things for them, but those aren't out yet. So I guess I'll just keep zipped on those. But I've been enjoying it. I was actually on the Twitch channel program talking about some of my monsters the last time I was on here. So
Very nice. Very
looking
nice.
forward to letting you guys know what I've been doing on these traps. So
We got let's see, what is this? Opa Father Son says, "What's up, Taylor?" My favorite DM. You know who that is?
I do know who that is.
All right.
Yeah, he's been a player of mine for. I've been running games for wow. I've been running the same world for over 40 years, and so I've got players that have been playing in it forever. I mean, things like I've got players that they started out as teenagers. Now they're teenagers have played in the world with them, playing things like their parents are in their old parents, old characters who became gods are now their children's gods as they play their new characters, but they're the same age they were when the adults became gods in the first place. It's really it kind of bends your brain a little bit. It's a lot of
That's
fun.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What
So
rule set is that for?
oh, we started out playing with the early rules, way back when it had THACO and, the
Well,
books
I knew
were
Thaco.
stapled together and paper on the outside and all of that when they first came out. So, yeah, I've been playing
Very
a
nice.
long time.
Cool. They became gods. I'm assuming there's some immortal rules and they were thrown in there.
Yes, we actually did. We had a lot of that going on. It was a lot of fun. And I know that my players have enjoyed it for a long time and we brought, all of our kids were doomed. They were doomed to have to be addicts to the whole D&D thing, and they are
Right.
loving it
Born
too. And
into it.
we love it. Yep, they were born into it. So there
Very
you go.
nice. Awesome. Well, you definitely have the experience to be working on this traps book. That's for sure.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And when
So
I'm not working on stuff for Goodman Games, I'm an author and I write books and short stories and things like that. So
awesome. I love books.
yeah,
You know,
me
people
too.
people think, oh, Grimtooth, you're a troll. You don't know how to read. Look, I'm a very learned troll. All right, I got several degrees, masteries, and all sorts of stuff. Okay, trapology, everything. Okay, they see the
Trapology.
muscles, they see the chains, they think, oh, this guy, he doesn't read. I read books. I know books. Got a big library. I stole it from some wizards, but I got it. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the favorite traps that you worked on for the
Okay.
upcoming.
Well, since
Lay it on
since
me.
Opus said hi on there, I'll start out with one that I had a lot of fun with that particular group doing the playtest on. This one's called Genius Gold, and it's originally it was Jonathan Bernick, I guess is the one that originally pinned the idea for this trap. And the concept is that it starts out as a very simple trap. It's a one skull trap. It's not that dangerous, but it gets progressively worse. The idea is that the genius gold they're all individual pieces of gold. Now, the way that I wrote it up, there's actually six, or you can go up to six or more coins. And each of these gold coins are part. Each one of them is a part of a hive mind. Okay, so the idea is that every time when the, the genius coin curse activates, the moment a delver picks it up. Okay, even if it's in a sack or it's hidden in some way, it's in a container,
They don't have to
it's mixed
physically touch it.
mixed in with other loot. As long as they pick it up and put it in their backpack, carry it, uh, put it in their pockets or their belt pouch, you know, dump it in with the rest of the coins they find in a treasure box. That it activates the trap. And when they do that, as soon as they pick it up, they've got to make a wisdom save, or they're going to have their mind taken over by the piece of the hive mind that's in the coin they're carrying. And it's going to last for a different period of time, however long it's going to last. It will last for up to 24 hours, but if they're still carrying it after 24 hours, they can again roll to get rid of that curse, to get
That would
away
be
from it.
an intelligence save or something
It's a
like that.
wisdom save.
Wisdom
Yeah,
save.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, if they fail, then they're immediately under the control of the genius gold. And these individual pieces of gold then have because they have a hive mind inside them, they have certain abilities. And the idea is that all of them are trying to get back together. So the thing that made this a really fun trap for playtesting is that if they pick one up, it can be a totally innocuous thing. You make the save to see if they make it. If they don't, suddenly they're being told by this genius gold. The genius gold is leading them around like a person leading a dog on a leash. Okay, telling them we want to go over here because the genius gold wants to bring them back, all the coins back together. So it's going to lead it to where it wants them to go.
Right.
Okay. Now they might not, and then once they get there, it may just tell them to, throw it into a wishing well or something. Okay, and then they won't be under the control of it anymore. But they've done their job for the genius gold and they've moved on. The thing that makes it insidious, though, is that as if you pick up more of them, it becomes more and more difficult to overcome the desire to follow them. The save goes way up. The
Right.
more coins you have, the higher the save is to not be taken over mentally by the genius gold. So,
They
and
could
with
lead
genius,
you anywhere, you
right,
know.
it can make you see things because the genius gold, the hive mind inside the genius gold, is also can cast certain spells. Like at the first level, the level of which would make it a one skull trap and not very deadly, the genius gold can cast minor illusion at will, and it can also make a silent image 3 times a day. So it could, like, you're the only one that's going to see it, and you will both, if it makes visual or audio associated with that particular spell, you are the only one of your party that's seeing it because it's all happening in your brain. It's not
Right.
really, it's so you're the only one that's going to be able to see it. Um, and then you have to follow it around doing what it says. It could make a delusion that makes you think, oh, we can't go the way we were going because suddenly there's a wall there, and you start screaming, no, I'm not going that way, and run off, and the rest of your party's like, what are you doing? We need to go this way.
You've gone
Um,
crazy.
Exactly. And then they have the thing about it, though, is if you have what we had fun with, I put it in conjunction with another trap, which I'll talk about next. Um, and I put all 6 coins and made it a long it's a long running adventure. So it was something that basically they picked up the first one, and it took over somebody for a little while, but then they got past it, and they managed to secret it away in like a bag of holding, so it was in another dimension. Okay. And then but pretty soon another person in the party in another part of the dungeon picks up another one. Now there's still two of them, and so they're having to, and they can feel, once you've picked one up, you can kind of feel where the other ones are, and you want to be close to them. So they started working together, and it gets worse and worse as you get more coins. Their abilities, like when you have 2 coins, they can suddenly do magic mouth, so they can start talking to you. Um, and if you have 3 coins, they can cast major images. And if you have 4, they can start casting hallucinatory terrain. So you might, they can make it look like you cannot possibly go that way, and you have
Right.
to go the way they want you to go. So,
What
and
happens when we got Commando Solo wants to know what happens when all the coins converge,
well, when all the
combine
that
together.
that is basically you can try to break free of that control, but like I said, it gets more and more difficult. And the idea is that this is a hive brain that's bringing the coins together. It wants to bring all the coins together, and then for whatever reason, you can have them deliver somebody. That's kind of like something we left open-ended, so the game master can decide what exactly this hive brain is trying to do with them, because it's basically, the idea is that the thing about them is they're just cursed items, in that they're a trap, but they're a cursed item because you can put them all over the place, and you'll keep picking them up, and they get stronger and stronger, and they're leading you a direction you may not want to go, which is great as a game master. It's a great tool to get your players to go where you want them to go, like right
Right.
into another trap.
Exactly.
Um, which is what I was going to talk about. The other trap that I used in conjunction with this, which is called the fountain trap. Now, this is a more difficult trap. It's a 3 skull trap, and this one was originally penned by Paul O'Connor. Um, and the idea about this fountain trap is that um, it's the original text of it was that basically it appears like a normal everyday fountain. So think of a mimic, but it's a fountain. Okay. But the water is murky, but you can see gold glimmering at the bottom. And in reality, the fountain is a living creature. So it's like I called it an elder mimic cousin, because there wasn't actually a creature description. So as part of redesigning this for 5e, I actually created the monster to go with it.
Nice.
That the fountain trap is this. It's called a pasquinade, and it's a large shape changer. And the idea is that it's a fun story. The backstory on it: it's created by an insane wizard with a penchant for deadly practical jokes. He through myriad crossbreeding experiments with mimics, he created a pasquinade, which looks exactly like a normal fountain until it moves. Unlike its smaller, more versatile cousins, a pasquinade can't assume any forms other than a fountain. But by turning its amorphous body partially inside out, it uses its digestive juices as the fountain's running water. So when you see the fountain bubbling, it's actually the water. It's actually the digestive juices in the pasquinade that's doing it.
Right. You don't want to swallow that.
Exactly.
Give you a burn.
Um, it would burn you. And so once it's
Unless you like
awakened,
that sort of thing. I've had some wild nights where I've like passed me some Pascu wall shots or whatever, And bartender's like, "Nah, you're cut off, Grimtooth." But
the
I digress. Continue.
it can't see or hear, but it can instinctively sense prey that's nearby, and it's always hungry. So we'll
Oh,
try and bite and swallow any creature that's unlucky enough to awaken it. Um, and because he wanted to be able to lure the targets of his evil jokes close enough to the Pasquinade for them to attack, but he didn't want the creature to be able to devour his own personal treasure, the wizard that created them bred an inability to digest gold into the Pasquinade. Okay, so over time, the allergy has become one of the creature's few weaknesses, and the undigested gold sits inside its body, and it accumulates from swallowing victims or whatever,
uh-huh.
and because of that, it builds up acid. It can actually spew like projectile vomit acid at its enemies.
Mm.
And the fun thing about this particular trap, in conjunction with the Genius Gold, and this is how I ran it as a playtest for it, was they were picking up these coins, and as you pick up these coins, they're telling you to go this direction. When you get that direction, you find this pasquinade, and you're being told to throw the coins in. So as you throw by the genius coins,
Right.
so they threw them in, and of course then the pasquinade wakes up and attacks, and the coins are just fine down in there because it can't digest them. So it was collecting them for the mind entity that was controlling all the coins. It was controlling them, and it so they throw them in the fountain that hopefully, according to the person the mind that's controlling the coins, they throw them in the fountain, and the fountain kills them, and then the fountain has collected more of the coins, and it just keeps doing that over and over again until either the fountain dies, and then they find a way to get out from under the curse, because you can get out from under the curse of the genius
Right.
gold. um, or but working in them together in conjunction, it was a great way to have pull the players all the way through the dungeon, because you start them at the beginning and throw a coin at them. Suddenly you've got at least one player, if they fail their save, going the direction you want, and it leads them all down to this monster which wants to kill them. So you can go through other traps as they have to get down to the monster that wants to
And
eat
this
them,
is
which is
just one
another trap.
example of a million you could use with that genius gold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So I had a
I
lot of
think
fun with
I think
those.
if I were using the genius gold and I put them all together, they would like open up a portal to some sort of I don't know, like world where everything is gold. So like you seem like you go to this paradise, but it's not there's nothing there but gold, and you'll soon die because you can't
Die of
eat.
starvation
Yeah,
and
exactly.
thirst.
Yeah.
Well, in the game that I play tested it in, eventually the coins and all of it led them to this adventure where they found all the coins had to go. It had been split from the mind of this giant, who was basically a god of giants, and they put on by putting the coins back in, they ended the curse on the coins. They freed this giant from the stone he'd been turned into, etc. So you can take those kinds of something like the genius gold, which is the reason I wanted to talk about it. It's a great little trap, but it could lead to a whole campaign by
Yeah.
using it. And as you drop in the coins at different points, you can use them to get your players back in the direction you want them to go. So,
Nice. Slight
um,
rail rolling, but in a good way.
yes, you're not railroading them. You're giving them a motivation.
Push.
That's it. Just some gentle motivation, like making them go insane and wanting to do what something else wants them to do. Just
Exactly.
gentle motivation.
Excellent, excellent. So
Um,
what's the third trap on the list here tonight?
okay. Well, I've got a couple that I. This is another one that I really thought was a lot of fun. It's called the Safe Cracker's Nemesis. This is a three skull trap, and originally designed by Scott Rhodes. And this one is fun. It's perfect for those adventurers that they see a safe or a treasure chest, they make a beeline to it, they're going to open it, they're going to take the stuff out, right?
Right.
So the idea is that you can place the genius gold, I mean the safecracker's nemesis, you can put this trap in any long rectangular stone room that has smooth, difficult to climb walls and only one door. Okay, the door that they would come into. Optimally, the room should be like 30 feet long, and to give the delvers time they're going to be turning the safe dial, and as they turn it, the floor is going to retract
Mm,
underneath. If every wrong number that they put in, it's going to come back a little further and a little further, and it's going to slowly retract under the safe, and below the floor is this really deep, horrible pit. And if they don't stop fiddling with the thing so they can jump back out the door before it gets too wide, then they're either going to have to open the safe or they're going to go in the pit, because it's going to continue every time they do
right.
a wrong number on the thing, on the safe dial. But so the idea is that, like, when you can detect, they go in. The only thing that's going to give them any kind of a detection on it is if they make a good perception check, which is in this case it's a DC 16 wisdom perception check. that allows them to notice there's a slight groove at the base of the walls just above the floor, and it runs all the way around the room. They can also notice there's some scrape marks here and there on the surface of the floor as if something heavy was enough to mar the stones was dragged across it.
Right.
And if they like take a knife or something and kind of jam it into that crack that they've seen, they'll notice that there's like six. It's like feels like it's 6 inches deep all the way around the walls, except on the side wall where the safe is, which they can shove a sword under there, and it still just keeps going. So it's obvious that that wall does not come all the way down, because
Right.
that should be clues if they do. But the effect is that every time they turn the dial to an incorrect number, the floor is going to slide a foot further under the safe, and it reveals this pit. Okay. And it's the pit starts at the door side. So, basically you've got the doors here, the safe is over here. All right.
Yep.
And if you turn the wrong dial here, the floor goes a foot away from the entrance door. You do it again, it's going to go a foot further. That's why I said optimally you want to have like 30 feet of room,
Right.
so that they got a lot of time to fiddle with it, or figure out that something's going on. Below it is a pit. Okay. And it's a huge deep pit. It's going to look bottomless, but it's actually like 160 feet deep. Okay. If you fall into it, you're going to take a ton of damage.
That's a
Uh,
lot of
like,
damage.
16d6 damage from
Yeah.
falling for that long. Okay. And countermeasures are really simple. Just don't turn the dial. Just stop turning it. But if you don't, you keep going, it's going to keep going. And you can, I scaled this because I was thinking that, you can adjust that. Most of the time when people have adjusted the traps, they adjust them to make them more difficult. In this particular one, I thought, well, this one's already pretty tough, because if you turn the wrong number a couple of times, the further you turn it, the bigger that jump's going to be. And if you don't make that jump, you're falling 160 feet, possibly to your death.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to scale it and make it a little easier, there's a couple of ways you could work around that. You could have the pit not be quite as deep, for one thing. Cut your damage in half by however long you want your pit. Made a couple of suggestions for that, but I think it's better
You
to have a
want
pit
more
that's
damage, not
dastardly.
less. Come on.
Well, there you go. You could also put, I made a suggestion in here also for a combination. You could have like the combination set into the walls of the room, but in such a way that they have to actually really work to figure out the clues to understand it.
Mm.
Like I had it set with on one wall, to the left wall to the safe, there's some stones on one side, and then there's stones on the other side. All the stones on the left wall, okay, all the stones on the left wall, there's two colors that are on each one, and they're different, like, so they're like, in this, I'll just, in this one, it's a delver studying the walls for a few minutes, making an intelligence check, DC 13, or an arcana check will even work, can identify that there's 5 purple stones, that 18 yellow jasper stones on one wall. The other one has 12 blue lapis stones and 9 red agate stones. Okay. And if
You
you
guys taking
look at
notes in
that,
the audience?
yeah. So if you're looking at that, and you think about it, you make an intelligence check, like we said, maybe an investigate check. There's a couple of different things you could do that to realize that. Um, you can figure out that the dial on the safe it turns both left and right, once or twice, and you're going to know that it turns and pulls the floor back, turns it left and right. You can also notice that if you're standing at the door and facing the safe, the purple and yellow stones are all on the left wall, and the blue and red stones are all in the right wall, and there's a certain number of each of those types of stones. So you think about it, and then and it's also, if you use a rainbow arc, thinking about that, it always progresses from the cooler colors to the hotter colors. So the way that I said is a good solution for this, if they make all their rolls and everything, is they can figure out that going from left to right, from hot to cold, from cool to hot, like a rainbow, would be like left 5, because it's got 5 of those stones, right 12, left 18, and right 9, based on the stones. And that's just one suggestion of
Right.
how you could put a combination or something to make it a little easier for them to get out if they've retracted the floor back and they're all going to die. Of course, you could always just do something simple like put a secret door in the wall next to the safe and let them escape that way too.
Is there a reset? So let's say the floor's been halfway opened into the pit, and they finally get the safe open
Yep.
and unlock it. Will the floor reset, or are they just like, oh, we got to figure out how to jump this, from
Now
here to the door
the
now?
trap automatically resets 10 minutes after the whole floor is slid under the wall, or immediately after the correct combination's been dialed
Where
into
does
the
the
safe.
safe go? The safe doesn't go tumbling down; it goes into the wall too.
Just the safe is attached to the wall. So
Oh,
it's
oh,
like
oh,
it's part of that wall. It's like a wall
gotcha.
safe, and it just kind of slides underneath it. So, but I thought that one was really fun because it's got unlike most traps, rather than putting the adjustment to make it more of a threat, it was kind of an adjustment added at the end of it as a suggestions if you wanted to make it a little easier on
Right.
your players, as opposed to just killing them all off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one's different.
If you're feeling nice that day, sure.
Exactly, exactly. This one's a fun one. I'll talk about this one. This is the epoxy trap. This is a pretty simple trap too. This would be a low-level trap, a one skull trap, and this is a really a deceptively simple trap. Basically, it can work in any hallway that's long enough to accommodate three 10-foot wide, 2-inch deep puddles on the floor, with at least about 5 feet of clear floor between them. So, you know, uh, if you wanted to have it, you want to probably have a figure in a corridor that's probably about 40 feet long would work the best. Then we could have one puddle, 5 feet, another 10-foot puddle, 5 feet, another 10-foot puddle, and then it goes on. But they're just going to look like puddles in the floor. But the problem is that it's epoxy. Okay, the first puddle, if you step in either side, doesn't matter which direction you come in the hall, which is also a good trap because it's versatile. You can come from either direction. You don't have to set it up for one way or the other. It can be in anywhere where they go back and forth many times, and they could just have to remember to not step in the puddles. But you step in the first puddle, like any epoxy, and it puts the activator on. You step into the middle puddle, and that connects the activator with the next part and creates the epoxy and cements them into that spot. Okay. Now, upon
Science.
right, and they're stuck there. And the effect is upon stepping in the center puddle and activating the epoxy, the delver's feet or footgear are immediately cemented to the floor, and they're stuck inside the stinking oily puddle. Um, on a failed save, they're stuck there if they're in bare feet. If they're in bare feet and they make a success, they can jump out of the puddle. With a dexterity 11, because you'd feel it starting to harden on your feet, so you could jump out, but it doesn't matter because the minute you hit the clear space, you still got the epoxy on your feet. You're still going to be stuck. So that's another one. It's like, I made the save, but it doesn't make any difference. You made the
Right.
save, you're still stuck. You're not in the puddle, but you're still stuck. Um, and the epoxy is so hard once it's done that the only way to get it off is by spending 10 minutes chipping it away with a sharp object or a dagger, or using something like a universal solvent. That will take
Or
care of it
go
as
the
well.
saw method.
Or yes, you could cut your feet off, or if you're barefoot, you got to trim your feet. You got to trim
We
that
trolls
skin
can
off the
grow
bottom.
limbs back, so that's not a big deal to me. But I guess humans, that would be
True.
a big deal.
It'll probably be. It's bad. It's usually considered a bad thing for humans.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Well, all right. Maybe chipping off just the epoxy is the way to go then for the mortals out there.
Probably. Well, if you're barefoot though, you're stuck. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
epoxy, so you got to take a knife and just cut the bottom of your skin of your feet off.
Oh, nasty.
And yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt a lot. In fact, I've got it written in here that if you cut through the layer in the bottom of your feet, which will unstick you, but you will be taking a D10 slashing damage to each foot.
Yikes.
Yeah, or alternatively, you can use, like I said, a universal solvent will immediately dissolve it. You can also
We've all
avoid it.
stepped on a D4 and we know what that feels like. So just imagine sawing off the bottom of your feet, people. Just think about that for a little while. Please.
Yeah, I'm sitting there with my knife. Wait a minute, not quite done maiming myself yet. The countermeasures are really easy. This can be avoided. Just don't step in the center puddle. You can step into either of the activators, and if you can jump 10 feet and go over the middle puddle and not touch it, you'll never activate the epoxy. So again, it's a pretty simple trap to avoid, but since they just look like puddles, the first time through, they're probably not going to be paying any attention,
Right. Yeah.
especially if it's in a dungeon where you've got puddles as a regular thing on different sections of floor and they've been used to treading in them. They're just going to walk right through these, and surprise, this one's not the same. You can also make it more deadly because you can put the outer two puzzles, the outer two puddles of this trap, instead of just being like activator, could be an activator that's made with acid. And so they step in it, they're going to be taking acid damage from stepping in them. And in addition to getting stuck, they'll be taking, if they step in either, if you want to make it that much tougher, then the minute you enter either of the outer puddles, you'll be taking 2d10 acid damage immediately and will continue to take 2d10 acid damage per round as long as they stay in the puddle.
Yeah.
So, so it makes them jump through the puddles that much faster and hopefully hit that center puddle and get stuck there. So they first burn their feet, then they get stuck and have to cut themselves loose or lose their footgear, which if it's magical boots or something, you don't want to leave them stuck to the floor. So
nothing is safe, not even puddles.
That's so right. Not puddles are not safe. There's a couple of things that you can also use that, like delvers, if they've got keen senses, might be able to smell that there's a difference in the puddles and know that they're not the same. They may all look like just water puddles on the ground, but if they have a really keen sense, they can smell it. They can also, if they're really good perception, they might notice that all three puddles look oily and smell bad, but the fluid in the center puddle is slightly clearer than the outer puddles. And so it'll make it obvious that somebody makes that, they'll know that they're not all the same liquid, which might be a clue that there's something going on other than water puddles that they're just going to run through. So there is a chance that they'll see it before they step in it and cement themselves to the ground or have to cut.
Always got to give somebody a chance.
That's it. So do you want me to talk about another one, or
I think I think you talked my troll ears off already with all these. They're great. They're amazing, but we do have another guest this evening.
True.
We need to get to him before it's too late.
All right,
set a timer on his in his room, and if we don't get to it in time, it's gonna just blow. So,
well, it's been great to talk to you, Grimtooth.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I don't hear too many people talk about sawing off the bottom of the feet, so I enjoyed that very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else you got put in those books. So we'll be right back, folks, after this commercial break, and I hope you stay tuned for our next guest. Oh yeah, it's me, Grimtooth, and I hope you're ready for a brand new book, Grimtooth Old Trap. We got all 150 of these traps statted up and ready to go, both in 5th edition and DCC RPG. Haha, yeah. Now, I know you don't want to miss out on this action, That's why I put this code up for you to scan. It'll take you straight to the backer kit page, and you can be notified on launch day. And then, oh buddy, you better believe we're gonna have some treats for you that day. Yeah. Now, don't delay, scan this code, or else I'm gonna get angry! Well, folks, I'm back, and I'm sorry to inform you that our last guest took a little too long to talk about traps, and the green room we were holding him in exploded. So this is all that's left, I'm afraid, is a jawbone for our last guest, and he will not be joining us this evening anymore, I'm sorry to say. So, oops. Looks like that's going to be the end of the show tonight. Don't know what to tell you, other than make sure you're signed up for the backer kit page, and to make sure that you're there on launch day. Because you know what? We're going to have ourselves a party that night. We're going to be grilling. We'll probably be smoking some gnomes up. I know we're going to have some elf ribs. And you better be sure the ale's flowing for show. Okay, so till next Thursday, or whenever I decide to come on somebody else's show as a guest, then you'll be checking me out then, I'm sure. So till then, y'all have a sweet evening. And if any of you guys knew this person, I won't say their name. Tell their family I'm sorry. Okay. Adios.